I've got a plan to save 50% on the restoration on this Mazda MX-5, but how am I going to do it? So when I first looked at this, I decided that we needed new suspension, new lower arms, new upper arms, new bushings, and pretty much a complete new front section. But it didn't just stop there. All of the back springs, again, exactly the same. All of the bottom arms, bottom subframe, exhaust system, brakes, pretty much complete back end. Now on top of that we've got rust issues, and again this was something else that was adding to the costs that was just making this not worth it. So I needed to think outside of the box and find a way to restore this Mazda MX-5 on a budget. So I decided, instead of replacing all of the upper and lower arms, why don't I restore them? So I set about making my own sandblasting cabinet, my own painting station, and my own press to push in the new bushes. Well, actually that was off Amazon, but you get the drift. So along with some savvy purchases, with some new suspension, bushes, new brakes, all new ball joints, I'm going to restore this Mazda MX-5 for a fraction of what it should cost. I'm trying to actually get this side taken apart and so everything now hopefully is undone. I've got to try and work through, take the suspension rods out first. So on here we've got two castle nuts which just not going to come off basically, so the only option that we've got today, the only option that we've got is to try to, now I've just bent the top up, that will just break off to there. Now I'm just going to try and knock a nut on and just literally just twist it and break it off. So it's just a case of just brute force and just break it. There's not any other option that I've got. Careful of the brake pipe, as I say, but yeah, not going to mess about trying to get that out, and then I can literally just punch the pin out. And exactly the same on the top one, just bent over. So this might have punched out, but the amount of time that I'm going to end up messing about trying to, I've got to punch it out afterwards, but hopefully it's a lot easier to punch out afterwards than it is. No, that's a lot smaller nut as well actually. After fighting with the castle nuts, it was then on to removing the upper arms, the lower arms, the hub, and then the actual strut for the suspension. So we've got the suspension arm at the top undone, got your two bolts out, and then that could just drop out through. The suspension arm then went through the upper arm and that was easily removed. Just a case now of getting the bushes pushed out of the lower arms and the upper arms, and then we can sandblast these up, start trying to make them look actually nice again. And again the bushes came out fairly easily. Ball joint again exactly the same, just pushes out, so it wasn't too bad. Just got stuck at the end, so a little bit of a bang out with the wrench, and there it comes nice and easily. One arm ready to be cleaned up and rebushed. So all the suspension is removed. Welcome to the sandblasting cabinet. Homemade or what? Hopefully I'm going to use this old bin turned up to be able to sandblast our part, putting the covering up so it just keeps most of the crap back off of me, and then it should allow me to actually get the lower arms sandblasted up pretty cheaply, do it myself, and then paint them, save some costs. Let's see how it actually works and see, does it work. So the homemade sandblasting cabinet starts to do the job. It wasn't brilliant, I couldn't actually see fantastically, so I am going to make a modification. So it's getting there, it's not perfect, but a couple of goes over and it doesn't take very long, so it's just trying to actually see, it's just actually trying to see what I'm doing. Is the biggest issue in trying to keep the sand from sort of coming back to me. I had got a proper little cabinet which has gone missing, so this is the best alternative at the moment. So I'm just going to now try and get all these little areas and then we'll have a look what it looks like once I've actually got it all nice. But all the metal underneath is like brand new, so well worth having these sandblasted and reusing them, and this is going to save us a lot of cost. Now that I'm happy, we can start getting some paint on, and it's literally the Simonized red oxide primer. It goes on pretty well, seems to do a good job, seems to stick well, so it's doing the job. One of the lower arms sandblasted and then red oxide primered. My next thing I think is actually putting the bushings in. I'm going to then tape all the bushings up and then actually give it a final coat of the black paint that we're going to use on there. Admittedly, not as good as sending it off and having it powder coated, but I would think that it's going to end up being about 50 quid per arm to be powder coated, sandblasted, powder coated and like new, and then by the time you put the bushings in, we're pretty much at the price of getting a new one anyway. So I'm trying to save money. This is the whole idea of doing the MX-5, is trying to do it on a budget but doing it well. So this is the answer. Hopefully it's going to work out. We're going to find out, aren't we? That's the whole idea of this. So we've sandblasted the upper front arms and we now need to bush them. So I need to now push the bushes in. I'm doing this before I've actually painted it the final colour, and the reason is that the chances are I'm going to scratch and manoeuvre this round. I can tape off the bushes quite easily and then paint everything around in theory. Let's see what happens. I think I'd have been okay. So you just need to push that in fully now. Check the back. It's not pushed out. Yeah, good. That's dead easy. Really easy. I do just need to push this bush back slightly, is the only thing, but apart from that, that's a lot easier than expected. Top coat can go no on, so this really transforms, and again it's the Simonized black paint, which we'll have a look at the cans afterwards. Front upper one is now pressed in, bushes are in. I've just got to press in the top ball joint when that turns up. Bottom arm ball joint I've now got, so that can go in. Comes with a new bolt as well to come through, so that's all good. And then we've just got to press in the other bushes, so there's an A and a B. B is slightly smaller, A is slightly bigger, so let's get those pushed in, and then we can start looking at how much restoring these is actually costing compared to if I'd have bought new ones. As I say, I'm hoping that we're about 50% cheaper, so let's find out. Let's get these in and then we'll add up all the costs. Hopefully should slot in. There's then a main bolt that goes through, hopefully. washer, and a nut, and then the top bolt where we can then adjust everything. And then we've got a cotter pin, and again goes back through our castle nut. So this is the cotter pin in the old original one that was all rusted into place, and I literally had to just put a nut on the top and just break it out. As it is, it didn't matter, I could have just literally cut it off, but it didn't take long to come off. So that is then just waiting for the top ball joint to come for that, so I can press that into place. And I've got a new upper and lower arm. So right, wish me luck. Let's get this out of the way. Well, that escalated quickly. So, let's get some primer and get it painted. Sometimes you just got to go for it. I wish I'd have put a mask on or something. I had no intention to actually start blasting as much as I did. I thought I'd just do a couple of little areas, just see. But hey ho, it works. Let's get on with it. So that's the chassis into some black on the first coat. So we will end up giving that another coat once it's dried, just for extra protection. Actually, when you look at everywhere that I've sandblasted, I've only given it a quick flick over, but everything is really, really good on this, and hence why it's worth restoring. Moment of truth, and where we actually find out, was it worth it? Was all of the labour worth it? Actually sandblast it, paint it, put the new bushings in, push it all out, etc. Now each one of these arms was over £100, so the lower arm was about £100 to £150, and the upper arms were slightly cheaper but not huge, still looking at about £100. So even if we said that we could find some at £100 each and it was £200, which I think we're probably pushing it to actually get these in at that price. Paint was about £10, so primer was about £10 and top coat was about £10, but we've only used half a tin per arm, if that, and that's going a bit over the top. To be fair, we can probably actually get 3 arms out of 1 tin of paint, but for figures, easiest way is just to say it was £10 to paint it, primered and top coat. Bushings, so the set of 4 bushings was about £220, so about £55 per corner. The ball joint on the bottom arm was about £35, and the ball joint on the top arm was about £25. So I'd got a £60 in ball joints, £55 in bushes. So what's that? 65 plus 55, so 120, and then that's about it. So 120 as opposed to 200, 250. I'm in there, aren't I? I think it was sort of, for me to try and get the cost down per side, I should be saving at least £400 in just arms alone on the 4 corners. Springs, we'll come to that once we've got these arms in, and I'll explain what I've done with those, because that's slightly different. Just the bottom ball joint arm to tighten up. So hopefully onto a really cool part of this build. Suspension strut goes in, but it goes through that arm. So this arm has to sort of go on, but the suspension strut has to go through that, so I think we need to sort of put the two together and then fiddle around with it. It has to go through here. This then has to go through here. That can then sit there. This can then hopefully have the bolt and nut put on there. All the bolts and nuts I'm literally just getting into place at the minute. That then go there, and then it becomes tricky because, oh no, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Now we need our big bolt that was an absolute nightmare to get out of. On the slow-mo, it took me ages to actually get this bolt out. I was there for ages. On the slow-mo it was dead quick, but it did take forever. Well, that's going to be fun to knock back out again if we ever need to. Yay! So 2 more bolts. So we've got the smaller bolt that just sort of goes over the actual bush, makes the final part of the bush. Our original bigger bolt, the bigger washer even, that then slips on, and then we've got a smaller washer and the nut. Castle nut off, remove our protective covering, and hopefully we can then start to fit. Then got our top nut, which will then push our spring into place. So it's now trying to find an order to do this in. Normally I'd put a jack underneath the bottom and jack all this up, but hopefully I can find my nuts. Found one of my nuts. Right, I've got a nut on. And then hopefully the bottom arm has got enough on it to go back through. Now, cleverly or stupidly, I don't know which one it is, hopefully cleverly, I've left the other side complete. This side is still complete, and the reason for that is, yeah, I could go back on the camera, look through at where everything went, but if I've got the other side, it just makes it easier just to nip round there instead of trying to film, look at the phone, stop filming, start filming. It's just easier just to nip around the other side and then refer to make sure everything's correct and the right way around. So this actually goes onto, there's a bolt on this carrier here, so this should just be able to come out, hopefully. And this is why I've not tightened everything all up 110%, so that there's bound to be things that I've got in the wrong place. So it just means that I've not got to go around tightening everything all up, undoing it all back again. I can literally have a muck about, figure out what's right and what's wrong. The nut then that goes through here, hopefully it's the same size, so that fits onto there. And then I can just go through now and start actually tightening everything all up. I'm in 2 minds about the brakes. What do I do about the brakes? Do I just put new calipers on, or do I just restore these? I'm going to see how they are first, but I might end up putting new ones on. So while the brake disc is off, I'm going to go around, I'm going to tighten every single nut up, get all those 100%, and then we can start looking to put our brakes on. So final piece of the puzzle coming on now, and this should again just make everything look great. It's not a nut and bolt restoration, it's never meant to be that, it was just literally trying to get it nice and usable and roadworthy and in a good state of condition. Trying to just get it back on the road in the best possible condition that it can be and make it a fun car, which is why I didn't want to sort of spend a huge amounts of money on it. So let me know in the comments, was it all worth it? Is it going to be worth it? And then hopefully you're going to enjoy the next videos coming up as well of getting it completely done and on the road. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and drop us a comment as well, because that all helps. Thanks for watching.